Good morning, Mr. Oji. It's good to see you here. Can you
Yeah,
hear
thank
me?
you. Thank you. I can hear you. Can
Yeah.
you hear me? Good morning.
Would you need some help putting up the backdrop?
Okay. Is there a backdrop? Okay, I see what you mean now. The background.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
how is that? Was I advised to do that? I'm not sure.
Ah,
But of
okay.
course, I can
So
change
we
my
can
background.
no problem at all. It's good. It's good. And we all are welcome. Mr. Ucheyi Chubo, welcome. And Mr.
Thank you, Timmy.
Abiola, Mr. Abdul Abiola, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
It's good to have you here. And we also have Olakweju Umar. So
Hi, Timmy. Good to have you here. Thank you.
it's good to see you. So there is a revolution sweeping through every landscape. And many things are no longer as they used to be, we used to know them, including agriculture. Technology is the culprit, if we say that, or the facilitator or the catalyst behind that revolution. And it is not a silent revolution at all. That is why we today are talking the business of agricultural technology, embracing the digital revolution, technology as a catalyst for growth. This is the fourth edition of the Business of Agriculture Masterclass, brought to you by the Private Sector Advisory Group, close to five, and BAT Nigeria Foundation, supported by Business Day Foundation. And I am very, very happy to have you with me here today. So I will dive straight into the business of the day, and uh, we will be looking forward to get insights for people, for fresh agripreneurs who are hoping to enter the agric landscape via the technology route, via the technology value chain. So the business today is for you to help such ones, including me, to see how we can enter that business of agriculture via the technology door. So, with the first question, I would like you to also introduce yourself while you answer the first question. You can tell us what your background, a bit of your background, and then answer that question from that perspective. And the question is much of an introduction to, please provide an overview of how agricultural technology can be utilized to start and scale a business with limited capital. I'll be talking about limited capital, like not very limited like that, but limited to, let's say, I have just 100,000 naira. So, um, any of you, my panelists, can start. I can see a broad smile on Mr. Abdul Abiola's face, and it looks like he wants to start.
Good morning, Mr. Timmy. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, audience. My name is Abdul Abiola. I'm a business executive focused on driving economic as well as human capital development through development of different business sector. I am a recent Japada because the the landscape, the entire globe, as I like to say it, there is a current changing world order, meaning there is a generational shift. The way we approach business from the past is no longer the same way. And that's what brought us today with how do we apply technology onto agriculture. So a little bit background of myself. I'm focused, as I said, different business sector. A major core is agriculture as well as clean energy. For Africa as a whole and Nigeria to develop, two things or three things are key ingredients. Number one, most of us wake up every day in search of food. So I always like to say in our lifetime, we will meet a doctor once, a teacher once, a lawyer once, maybe once. However, we encounter a farmer every day because food is the top hierarchy of life. In our other endeavors for Africa to grow, we are in dire need of energy. Africa is full of abundant resources, from agri-table lands to mineral resources. For us at A2 Group, we look at different projects, how we can use business to become a catalyst for development. I always say, you know, I wrote a column a couple of weeks ago, and I mentioned that the world is in crisis. And whenever we hear the word crisis, it can either mean danger or it means opportunity. In China, they actually look at crisis as opportunity. And that's why you see a lot of Chinese problem all over Africa, because it's tons of opportunity. And thank you for that question in terms of how do we apply technology into agriculture. For us, we focus on, you know, one thing I noticed that's common in Africa and in Nigeria is everybody keeps looking at the negative aspect of things. However, I want to encourage everybody to start looking at the positive. Look, we have challenges, whether we like it or not, they're here. How do we change the narrative? And technology is something that is a key that's going to drive us into that next world. Nigeria is just moving into its first industrial revolution. The West is at their fourth industrial revolution. Nigeria, we are moving from our manual way of farming and just now moving into mechanized system of farming, which is fantastic. Now we have brilliant mind. I visited a gentleman in Abuja that innovates machines and mechanized equipment to start approaching agriculture from a different perspective. For us to change the challenges that we have to become innovators. My internet right here might shy away, and I always like to say that because I like people to understand that everything we use, or most things we use in Africa, are not designed for Africa. I have Starlink. However, the satellite is not pointing towards us, so it's not going to work appropriately. From the containers we use all the way to, you know, if most things we use, even the vehicles we use, are not designed with us in mind. So that's my driving force on taking my experience to come back to Africa and use it. And, you know, how do we start innovating? How do we start developing? In technology, you know, the 100,000, if you have a mobile phone, there are apps, artificial intelligent apps that you can use to optimize your farm. There's an app called Plantain. I'm not sure if anybody is aware of it. You can practically take a picture of your crops and the app will scan it, give you all the details, and give you information on how to optimize the plant, how to care for it. There are different technologies out there, whereas we can use it to speed up. Now, I want to encourage Nigerians as a whole, farmers as a whole, and all individual, like whether we like it or not, technology is here to stay.
Thank
It
you.
is a new day, new age. We have to embrace it. We have to keep this conversation going, and we can start innovating and start writing our own stories moving forward. Thank you. That's
Thank
a
you
big
very much, Abdul. And that was quite an opener. Thank you very much. And you see, when you were talking, it just takes me back to something credited to Chinua Achebe, that it's until the lion starts writing its own story, then the hunter would always get all the glory. So we need to design our own technology. Now,
absolutely.
we thank you very much. We are talking about this tech now for entrance into that business. So I'll go to Olakweju now. How do you feel? What do you think about this question? That okay, we want to use technology. We have limited capital, and how do we make the most of it? How do we bring all this together?
All right, thank you so much, Timmy. It's a pleasure to be here once again. Now, I'd attack the question from my experience. Right, you have 100,000 naira. When I saw, I mean, when I heard that question, I was like, you know what? Is the person really ready? Because 100,000 naira, honestly speaking, maybe like Abdul said, you need to just go online, get some AI apps and all of that. But on a more serious note, you really cannot attack a problem that you don't know about, right? So I would advise the person who has 100,000 naira not to put all of that into trying to get to trying to get technology first. I would advise that you start from the basics. Using myself as an example, when we started My Food Angels, back then it was called Mile 12 Market Woman. You know, when I started, I literally had nothing, but the only technology I had was my mobile phone and and I had a car, right? And we were able to fulfill orders through that. What do we do in My Food Angels? We move food from the farmers and we move it to the consumer. Simple and plain. That's what we do. But as we started to scale, what we now decided to do when we saw that we had the food utilization, for instance, in the open market, only about 26.7% of the food in the open market is fit for consumption, right? And that poses a very, very big problem, right? A lot of the food in the market are being wasted. And so we started to start going back to the farms, right? And start working with the farmers to provide high yielding seeds, right? Hybrid seeds, because what we see in the market is a lot of them are probably low quality. We started with tomatoes, right? So we fund the farmers with seeds to plant, and we are ready off takers for the farmer. And then we now built a platform that allows the farmer to be able to interact with the consumer. Right. So, but we first of all went to understand the problem before we started applying technology. I think for somebody that doesn't have more than 100,000 naira, should be looking in that direction. Start small and then start scaling it as you get more investments. However, if you still want to, maybe you have the idea, you know what the problems are, and you want to create solutions. I would say things like probably when I was trying to brainstorm on what you should even be applying technology, this kind of technology you can get for 100,000 naira. I'm thinking stuff like um, fertilizer applicators, for instance. They're not so expensive, but I don't know how far that can take you in the large scope of things. But like I said, understand the problem and then begin to use technology to apply to solve it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Olakweju. Now, before I go to Uche and Soji, I'd like to add a little bit to the question. Now, when we mention agri-tech, there are a few things that come to mind. For me, I'm thinking of an agri investment app. For some people, they are thinking of a drone. For some people, they are thinking of some mixture of organic fertilizer here and there, and of course, that is also technology. So I would want you to, as you answer that question, the 100,000 naira question, also talk about some of the trending technologies or the technologies that are in the markets now and that are solving particular pain points. So, Mr. Uche,
Uche,
you want to go?
yes,
Yes.
thank you, Terry, for that question. So first of all, let me bring us all on the same page with regards to agricultural technology. It involves applying both software and hardware innovations to improve farming efficiency, productivity, and sustainability. Right? These innovations can range from, like you mentioned, digital platforms, mobile apps, and advanced machinery and sensors. So for entrepreneurs with 100,000, honestly, this is super hypothetical, but let's go with the figure stated. Um, and all things being equal, so to speak, I would advise entrepreneurs getting started to lean towards software-based agri-tech ventures because this is most accessible as a starting point with that kind of capital outlay. So software solutions like mobile apps, data analytics platforms, early warning signals. I was sitting down with a couple of agri investors who manage private equity funds. And one of the issues they have is a lack of viable business to invest in, right? And this is not because there is a lack of actual business to invest in, it's just there is no connection. So while Thrive a Greek has successfully created a platform that connects local farmers to retail investors, which is the everyday man, there seems to be a gap in the market for the same sort of farmers to be connected to actual venture capitalists, right? So an app that is literally the same thing, but targeted towards, say, venture capitalists would take off, if you ask me, because I've seen, that there's a gap in the market there. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. I would, kind of like what Madam Olapeju, I think, yes, said, information is key, to be honest. I would first arm myself with adequate information to solve the problem, at hand. But, with that kind of budget, software-based solutions would be the best thing. And in today's world, that's become easier than ever. There's a guy trending on the internet called Blake. I forget his surname now. But this guy literally, without writing one line of code, created 2 applications that has literally turned him into a millionaire in US dollars. So it is really possible to create software now, even with very little tech background.
Thank you very much, Uche. So how do you weigh in on this, Soji?
Yeah, thank you, Tammy. Good morning, everyone. My name is Soji Soyaolu. I'm the CEO of the company called SMART. for us, what keeps us awake at night is exactly what is being discussed here, which is how do we uh, use technology to drive productivity, maximize crop yield, and while at the same time unlocking the power of agriculture to combat climate change. So, interesting topic, but we come from a different perspective, and that's one of my interaction with a grower in Nigeria. I'm not a farmer by profession. I'm a technology person, and I run a technology company. I was interacting with a grower in Ibadan, and I asked her a very basic question. And that was, yeah, this your business. How much did you spend last month, for example? The last 1 month, what was the outgoing of your farming business? Uh, and then she began to struggle that, okay, let me think about it. I said, okay, let's not go to the last 1 month. Can we look at the last 1 week? How much did you spend? And she could not answer the question. And I think that's so fundamental that, for anyone on this bridge wanting to start a business and listen to all the panelists here, at the heart of every business is data. And that for us is what we started with. For example, we call it farm data. Collect as much information as possible, and that is a finance record, farm operations record, all of those information. If you are going to tap into capital, let's keep the 100,000 naira apart now. You need X amount of money. You need loads of such information to share with those people that will eventually give you the capital. But today, what I see, unfortunately, in the last landscape is that folks aren't they aren't treating agriculture as a business. And to the point that was asked, for us, one of those things we build as a company is to build mobile application. Any farm app is available, largely free for most people. You go in there and you have such capability to document your information, finance record, sales record, operational record. And then it becomes easier as you interface with business people, for example, bankers, insurance company, that the information, the interaction with those people becomes very objective because it's driven by data. It's not emotional. They need X amount of information. You share digital information with them, and then that grows their confidence, and the capital naturally will flow to that person. So I think to start with, it will be farm data that whoever has that 100,000 naira to think about what is the size of the farmland. If I want to grow, how large is this farm? And most people interacting with farmers, for example, in Nigeria, what I see is, yes, such comment as, yeah, I was told it's 2 acres. So I was told practically they don't know the size of the operation, the theater of the operation, and those basic information, in my view, we make planning very, very, very difficult. So to your question, 100,000 may look small. I would say such a person should get a decent mobile application. Look for different apps. I can recommend any farm to you. Check it out. And then begin to look at how do I start with documenting information. There are loads of field agent roles across Nigeria. You work within the farm and you are acting as a field agent using this app to collect this data. You learn from the rope, and over time, you'll be able to raise your own capital as well to do what you intend to do. So,
thank you very, very much for the way you have brought out those points. So from what you, my panelists, have said, and from some of the things I've heard through the period of this masterclass, I see that the places requiring technology in agriculture. It could be applied in data analytics, uh, early warning systems, linkage systems, bookkeeping, like Soji just said. Now, I know that this looks like the pain points. Now, as okay, I have gone to school, I have done Greek science, and I have a fair knowledge of computer science, or I have done computer science and I am looking to cross into agriculture because just like this our theme song has been saying, we have something uh, deeper than oil in our country. So how do I go? How do I go? Looking at this pain point and looking at my own capability, what are those first steps that should be taken by an aspiring entrepreneur who has, okay, the investment, maybe he has come together in a cooperative or he has his friend, or he has his skills to wager. How does he go? Like, you can use your own practical example. How did you start what has become your big organization now that you are running to solve people's problems?
Do you
Okay,
want
let
me
me
to go
jump in.
first? Okay, right.
Let me jump in there because quite interestingly, I found a template from one of the oldest books I know, which is the book of Genesis, actually. And if you take the creation story in the book of Genesis as the first startup or the first business in the world, then it begins to sort of unfold a template for you to sort of use for any venture that you're going into. So on day one of creation, for instance, let there be light, right? Notice that this was not the sun and the moon, right? So this alludes to vision and knowledge, right? So before you venture into any business whatsoever, take some time out to sort of seek knowledge. I believe Olakweju alluded to that as well. You know, knowledge is key in every venture you go into. So the reference point here is Genesis 1:3-5. And the business principle would be to do your research, you know, sharpen your knife before you go and cut down the tree, right? Vision and research are the business principles, right? So on day two, the separation of waters, you know, from the top, if you're familiar with the Genesis story, this alludes to structure and foundation. You know, the reference point here, if you want to check it out, is Genesis 1:6-8. The business principle here is structure and organization, right? So set up your entity, you know, set up some SOPs, make sure you have some operations in place, you know, some accounting mechanisms like Saji just alluded to. Make sure you can track what you're doing. Otherwise, you know, it turns into guesswork. On day three, land and vegetation, this alludes to resources and sustainability, right? The reference here would be Genesis 1:9-13. The business principle here is resource management and sustainability, right? So always look to manage your resources, even if it be just 100,000 naira you have. Resource management is key to progress, all right? And on day four, the sun, the moon, and the stars were created, right? And in Genesis, this talks about these things being created for man to be able to tell the times and the seasons, right? So for every business, there's going to be times and seasons, right? If you're a farmer, for instance, you know this all too well, that there is a time to plant and there's also a time to harvest. And you know, and there's also a time to water your crops, even if you have irrigation and you can farm, you know, year round. There are different times designated, you know, best practices to do certain things. And segue into to day five, innovation, right? Leave room for innovation. Once you have your structure going, and you have your product, Once you've gained traction in that, you can look to diversify into several markets. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, sort of diversify a little bit. This was, what happened when the creatures in the waters and in the skies were created. And on day 6, leadership and culture, right? It's very important. In today's world, technology is freely available to everybody, right? Same technology that is available to Mercedes-Benz is equally available to Toyota. But the difference between those two companies would be the leadership and the management structure. So know who you're doing your business with, who you're employing, know who your employers are, what their values are, set that culture such that when they come in, they're not coming into chaos and they're not coming to create, something that is not what you set out as your vision. And of course, on day 7 was reflection, rest, reflect. Always make time to sort of, go through your what can be improved. In project management, I believe it's lessons learned. So always have time to reflect and learn from where you might have foreseen or undergone hiccups. So using that day 1 to day 7 as a template, it's kind of like a broad brush, if you like, to sort of for any application or any as an entrepreneur getting started.
Thank you very much. I like that allegory, will I call it, of the creation to business. Now, how do you weigh in on this, Soji?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, thank you. I think it's a fascinating question. And to anyone on the bridge, you have, studied computer-related course in the university, and now you are looking at transitioning to agriculture. I reckon that's the frame around the question. And I'll use my own example. I think that matches my person. I'm a grandson to a farmer. So my late grandpa was a smallholder farmer while he was here. I never did anything agriculture. I studied computer engineering in the university. Then fast forward to many years after, I began to think of how do I use my knowledge in technology and all of these vast access to information to solve real life problems. And that brought me into agriculture. Today, there are multiple problems, a lot of them actually, within that value chain of agriculture. And I will make mention of some of them, equally make an offer on this bridge. So imagine the situation that farmers up and down the country, they are looking for information. They have questions. I mean, real questions. I have this problem. How do I solve this problem? I'm experiencing this on my farm. And in real life, but the people that solve such problem are extension people, extension workers. And there's a business model around that where, you have these educators that work with these farmers. Can we solve that with technology? Because the truth is, if you have to put boot on ground, for those extension workers, scaling across Nigeria, for example, is a tall order. It will be difficult. And so one problem that can be solved today with technology background and agriculture, can I leverage AI capability to answer real life questions from farmers? And we figured that out. We built that, for example, and anyone can equally build this. And a kind of conversational AI. I can ask verbal question to an application, okay, in local language, Nigerian local language, Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, you name it. And then there's a language processor that could handle all of these so that farmers in Nigeria, I know someone will talk about the demography, maybe what if they're older farmers, that's fine. That demography is changing because We have younger people coming into farming now, born in the age of the internet. And we want to give them these tools, for example, that without waiting for anybody, they can pick their mobile application and ask verbal question to an app and get real life answer. AI does that today. Is a very basic capability that someone wanting to transition from computer into agriculture can build. And a whole lot of other ones that I can multiply the example. Today, we have climate crisis upon us, for example, and one unique problem up and down the continent of Africa today is how do I determine the carbon stock in my farm, for example? And there are farms, many of them in Africa. We have the way one of our panelists alluded to a satellite for internet. There are satellites today that someone can consume data from there, for example, and match it to soil organic carbon, and then create a map for Africa, for Nigeria, that will determine the soil organic carbon, and that becomes a lot of money down the road. These are opportunity for someone with computer background who can come into agriculture. And they just identify the problem. That will be what I will tell people. Identify the problem. We have many of them in Nigeria. Pick one problem, make sure it's solved, and then naturally every other thing will flow to you. Money, resource, you name it, they will flow to you because you have solved that problem. And this is what I've done on my own journey. I think it's possible as well, especially for someone who is very young and wanting to solve real life problem in agriculture. It's a big value chain from the time of production to the time of harvest. There's so much in between that you can build and use your skill as a computer person to solve, for example. So
thank you very, very much, Soji. For me, one thing stands out because as there are many agric extension student graduates in Nigeria who have been trained to believe or have been boxed into a corner that agric extension can only work with government. And with what you said, with the insight that you have given, it shows that, in fact, agric extension itself could just be a private sector thing and may not depend on the government. So I really appreciate that. I will still take you on some more on that. But before that, I would like Olakweju to weigh in on that. Do we still also have Abdul? But Olakweju, please go on.
I'm still on.
All right. Thank you, Temi. Now, I would approach this question from my own perspective of, let's look at the big picture, right? Nigeria currently, everybody is, we all have a problem on our hands, so to speak, a challenge, in this space. And if we are not all chiming in, there's an issue. A bit of statistics, right? We're 200 million, over 200 million in Nigeria. And from the data we've gathered, right, over 80% of the population is currently in one way or the other into agric. And if over 80% of the population in one way or the other of each homes in Nigeria is into agric, and we're still having about 50% now post-harvest loss, right? It's a big worry. 50% post-harvest loss, and then we're having food items going so sporadically high. Every day you wake up to new prices, right? If we're not checking this and everybody trying to find where they fit in, we're still going to have a problem. Now, subsistence farming is taking up out of the 80%, majority are subsistence farmers. We only have about 10% mechanized farms here in Nigeria. I'm just trying to paint the picture that there's a big issue. 40% arable lands, right? And we're not even able to sustain ourselves, let alone export in large numbers. So what I would advise is this: find where you belong. I trained as an engineer. I'm an electrical electronics engineer by profession, right? I did not think I would be doing agric, but the situation called for it. And as many as we are in our own spaces, you can find yourself like Soji rightly said, you can find yourself even as a founder of agric, right? You can find yourself as one who is gathering information, gathering data, right? We all need everybody's hands on deck, because we cannot have about close to half of our population right now going into food insecurity. We're having almost half of our population right now food insecure. And tech would really solve things. Tech would really scale things. So the more we have people who have the funds coming into the space and understanding that this thing is patient capital, right? It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's patient capital. Whatever you're putting into the industry has to be patient enough to see the industry thrive before you think that you can make so much money out of the industry. I think that's what I just want to chime in. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. I would like Abdul to now come in here, but before he comes in, I would like to add a little bit to the question. See, there are certain agri-tech that we've known, they've come, they've gone, and many of these are agri-tech slash agri finance tech. I'm sure that some pictures are popping up in your on your radar as I'm speaking about it. Now, those kind of agri-tech came, but they couldn't stay afloat, and in fact, they wounded a lot of people. Now, we are talking practical. We are looking for how are we bringing in agri-tech for especially newcomers, where they can plug in and use the tech and then keep it sustainable in the market. So please go on, Abdul.
Thank you. So one of the major challenges in business, as Mr. Uche mentioned, is I believe most people don't understand the core principles of business. Before you can even endeavor into any business, you should have a vision and acquire as much knowledge as you can. Business does not succeed without that. For us, how I made the journey into agriculture is I've had life experiences that was driven by people hungry, by hunger. So when people are hungry, they will resort to nonsense, excuse my French. However, for us at A2 Group, our primary focus is to develop mineral resources. Now, the resource we're focused on is how do we innovate battery solutions? That took us into agriculture, whereas you need things like irrigation system. Can we bring in technology? Can we have, Nigeria has abundance of lithium. Lithium is the primary ingredients in the manufacture of batteries, and we have a lot of it. Can we take that and create solutions that we can bring to the farms to create sustainability on an agricultural perspective? So for us, it was more of, I'm just a business person. I had no clue on agriculture, but I understand the top thing that human needs is agriculture. So how do we bridge the gap from an innovation perspective and bring it into agriculture and create a sustainable system? For most people to be able to cross over, and I'd like to encourage, because in Nigeria, we have a lot of 1.4 billion people across Africa, 30% under 30, median age of 19. Everybody has a smartphone. Majority has a smartphone. As Ms. Olapeju said, we are only utilizing 10% of mechanized farming. That is not sustainable. We have young, brilliant minds that can code. And now we have ChatGPT and all this fancy and free AI tools that can code and develop solution. However, before you can develop that solution, you have to have a vision. And having a vision is you being able to serve the people. So I tell everybody to start with, what problem are you trying to solve? If you're trying to get into business just to make money, in most chances it doesn't work because you don't have the drive, you don't have the vision to be able to overcome that. So that's the main core of being able to transition from either being a computer scientist to coming into the agricultural world. Data sets is something that we're working on. If we're able to generate, there's satellites out already. We can take satellite imagery to check out the condition, precipitation, soil conditions, and things of such. And there are people out there that has this knowledge. I just spoke with a young, brilliant Nigerian that graduated from LASU or University of Lagos. He has been snatched to the United States. He's a geoscientist, and we are trying to poach him to come back just to be able to use data set to give us information on farmlands here. A couple of weeks ago, there was no rain in Lagos. Today, climate change, we are 1.5 degrees Celsius hotter than it was 40 years ago. So there was no rain in Lagos for a couple of weeks. We went to several farms. All their harvest was dead. Then right now we have flooding in the north. We have to be proactive on that. And we need brilliant minds that can come in, even from a farming perspective. Can you tell me the challenges you are having? Can we bridge the gap with somebody from the technology standpoint and be able to create solution for it? And that's the key approach that I think will drive us into the future, to be able to bridge the gap between not just computer science and agriculture, but you can bridge the gap from different sectors.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now, from what everyone has said, it looks like there is no dearth of places to apply technology in agriculture. There is a whole lot of spaces to fill, so much pains to soothe that technology can fill. But then it looks like many people, especially the youth with all the energy, are unable to see. So how do you think we can solve this? Like practical ways. I would like in your answer to this to mention those ways and a few things, a few things to do to get your your leg in the door of achieving such things. I have had example that has been mentioned on this panel already. I have heard from Soji, the field agent roles. I've also heard the data analytics and early warning, just like Abdul just said. So what are other ones that we can mention? How can we get in? How can the aspiring agripreneur, agri-techpreneur get into that space? As in, what are the first basic thing to do to get into that space and stay in that space? And how can they meet mentors? How can they meet people to help them?
Okay. Let me go first. So I don't know if this is allowed on this platform, but permit me to talk freely. It's a call out to everyone that is here. If you like technology and you want to innovate and you want to play a key role in helping farmers maximize their crop yield and solve the problem of climate, please come talk to me. Okay. And that's a job offer that I'm putting right on this call. So yes, the role of field agent is massive. For us today at SMART, at the last count, we have onboarded over 50,000 acres of farmland in Nigeria, with different farmers wanting to participate in the voluntary carbon market, to be able to get carbon credit to farmers in Nigeria. And the biggest challenge I have today as a company founder is I need boots on ground. I need loads of field agents, technology savvy, driven, self-driven, passionate, that we go across from 1 inch of this farmland to the other to collect information, data, and working with these farmers to deploy biochar across this farmland requires a lot of boot on ground. And that for me is fascinating. So to your question, what are the practical steps? Look out for opportunities like the one I'm offering you if you are listening, for example, and jump on it and participate, be there, work with companies that are building. And there are loads of companies building today in Nigeria and across sub-Saharan Africa. Look out for them. Yes, it's good to make money and everybody likes money, myself inclusive, but that shouldn't be the first thing. You want to learn, you want to have that exposure, you want to feed the mind. If the mind can see it, then it's possible to create it. And the only way you can feed the mind is to be part of those people doing it, and you begin to see, oh, okay, that is possible. And over time, in a couple of years or multiple years, if you still have the passion, you can spill off and then begin to do your own stuff, build your own business, for example. I think that will be one of the things I will mention. And I say this again, I'm not a government official, I'm a private person, but Nigeria is a blessed nation. We have loads of problems. What that tells me is that there are loads of opportunities. And with those opportunities, if someone can tackle one of them, either you are age 19 or you are age 29 or you are age 59, if you tackle one of them and solve, you will make a ton of money in the process. So we shouldn't tear down Nigeria. We can't afford to tear down uh, the country that we call ours because of some of these problems. I would rather pick one of them and walk through the pain point to solve them. And if I can do that, if you can do that, at the end of the day, we make money. I would have made our country better, for example. So,
Thank you. Thank you very much, Soji, for that fine, passionate input. I really, really appreciate it. Okay.
Let me be the first to sign up to Soji's call to action right there. Maybe not as a boot on ground with my white collar, but I'm happy to hear that you're doing some work in the carbon credit space. It's something I've also been thinking about as a way to not only have farmers generate revenue from their produce, but also from, stewarding land that is sequestering carbon from the atmosphere. Apparently, photosynthesis is still the best technology when it comes to sequestering carbon from the atmosphere. And being a blockchain solutions architect myself, I'm also looking at ways to sort of tokenize these carbon credits and trace them, through the blockchain such that they're legit.
yeah,
And
let's
that
talk. When we finish, we can take offline. I think we have
I
a lot
will
of overlapping interest in there. So,
I will sure be signing on. I'll be sure to be signing on. So back to you, Temi. To answer your question, I think the best way to get involved really is to ask questions. Don't pass up any opportunity at all to ask questions. And thank God for today's day and age, we have all sorts of tools to notify you when these sorts of events are taking place, right? So this year, for example, there have been so many agri-tech, agri-based conferences that you can attend as an entrepreneur looking to get started. Look at the value chain. Again, we can't do without gathering information initially, right? Look at the value chain, figure out where you want to play, and then start to sort of, get involved with these networking events virtually, locally, internationally. LinkedIn is a great resource. You can cold email people, spend a couple of bucks or some naira, and upgrade your subscription with LinkedIn such that you can access whoever you want. And just send them an email. Everyone is always happy to network with people in their industry looking to help, right? And one thing I would say to mentees looking for mentors is just be ready to serve. You know, there's definitely a shortage of good hands out there. And if you're coming to contribute something, adding value, you will be recognized. And before you know it, you know, you're definitely in the environment where you need to be, picking up the relevant skills and networking and speaking with the right people. So it's a patient game. You definitely have to get more inquisitive. Um, so many resources out there for you. Eventbrite is one of them. LinkedIn is one of them. You can find so many events on this thing. Twitter even, apparently there's a Twitter space or Twitter section for every sort of industry. There's crypto Twitter, there's agri Twitter, there's Niger Twitter, so just get involved. Just get involved, The world is at your fingertips.
Thank you
So
very
literally
much.
no excuses.
Thank you very much. The world at our fingertips. Yeah. Olapeju, you are itching to weigh in on this. By the way, I would like to sign up Soji, but should I be saying this on air? All right, Olapeju.
Right. I'm not going to deviate from majority of what has been said, but you cannot solve a problem that you are not aware of, right? So you want to play in the space, join associations, join groups online, get the real-time information. One thing we've started doing even here in my Food Angels, like I said, we had started going back to the farms to see how we can partner with farmers. So you can take that step. And one thing I know is that if you have a tug in your heart for whatever part of the value chain, it means that there's something there for you. Why don't you make some research, make more research on that, and yeah, just ensure that you're playing your part how you can. Most of those groups are readily available online, offline, right? And that you can join. If we all leave it to those that are currently solving this thing, there's only so much we all can do, or we all have been able to do, right? So I think that's what I can just chime in on. Thank you.
Thank you, Olapeju. Abdul.
Yes, thank you. For me, I concur with everything said here, but I'm going to go a little bit further. We need more support. So for individuals trying to come in, they need the information. So earlier on during the sessions, on one of the sessions, I heard some information, whereas the banks and their foundations are not creating sessions like this. Where I previously resided, any industry, most industries, our banking institutions are actually giving out information and putting together sessions of this. So thank you to Business Day and PSAG for putting together this panel. People need information. Information is key. And if we can create training sessions, we have the the National Agricultural Development Fund. Most people don't even know that exists. And their job is to be creating training programs and sessions of this, whereas people can obtain as much information as possible. One of the biggest challenges in this nation is that a lot of people have lost hope. Now we need to shift the mindsets. So most people that graduated, from computer science, they're not even thinking agriculture. However, there is a huge look, one of the biggest industry, it's not even one of the biggest. As I mentioned earlier, the top priority of life is of life's hierarchy is food. So whatever sector you're in, you still, from logistics to computer science to, you just name it. We are in mineral resources, and we're thinking of, I've visited farm just to see how we can help optimize their storage system by applying renewable energy. For instance, cost of rice is extremely expensive. We are trying to see how can we bring it down. One of the major challenges is rice production. You have to power it by diesel. The price is not stable. So if you think rice is going to be 100,000 or 150, We need to do something else. And it's not just from the farmer's perspective, it's from the government. If you look at what Dr. Michael Opara did in the Eastern region, he brought together the local governments to set up farm settlements, and it goes deeper than just the farmers and the younger generations coming in. It goes to our governments and private sectors, all of us coming and working collaboratively, hand in hand. One of my close mentors mentioned on a talk that democracy does not guarantee good governance. And that was really scary for me. However, I read in recently that democracy can only be created when all of us work hand in hand. That's how we achieve success. So for me, it's just everybody coming together, having a similar goal, similar vision, and driving the sector to the next level that we need to be.
Thank you very much. So, for me, from the background that I come from, which is journalism, we do something and it is called copy work. If I see a writer that writes well, I go copy their work, their style. I don't plagiarize, but I just copy their style so that I put in all those ingredients in my own work, and voila, I am already giving out what. So in this agri-tech space now, are there some some agri-tech ventures that you have seen that started with minimal resources and then became successful? And can you mention like one or two things that made them successful, sustainable? Are there examples you like to share?
Okay. Can I shoot first?
Please go ahead.
So I think one of the panelists here made, I think it was Olape. I hope I got the name right. Did
Olapeju.
I? Olapeju, Madam Olapeju. I think she made use of this uh, phrase, patient capital. Um, and I think that's so essential. Yeah, and my own experience as well to know that if we are stepping within agri-tech, like all of these capabilities that we've talked about, um, you have to be ready to drive for the long haul. There is no, in my experience, it's not a sprint; it's a marathon, and you need to come with a mindset that uh, will I be a wealthy guy solving this problem? Yes. Will it happen in 1 year? Probably no. So to your question, are there successful agri-tech? And you alluded to some of them in the past that, in my world, they aren't agri-tech. And with all due respect to the amazing what they did before they failed, it was more of, finance and all of that. Now, to build a successful business, there's a need for patience, and patient capital has to be involved. The ability, wanting to go the extra mile, the long haul, I think is needed. Uh, and this goes against some of the drive that perhaps as Nigerians we have. I want to see what is in there. So can I make money quickly? If it is agriculture and agri-tech, in my experience, the answer is no. But will you make money on the long haul? Yes, for example. So that's something that we need to put out. And that doesn't mean it's negative. It depends on the mindset. It depends on are you willing to have delayed gratification, or do you want to have it now? If it is now kind of mindset, then this is not the space for you, for example. I'll keep quiet. And that does not mean I'm being pessimistic. I'm just calling it out, at least from my standpoint, the way it is. So
Thank you. Thank you. I like your frankness. So, Mike, Abdul, sorry, I was going to call you Mike Abdul.
Yes, sir. So, in terms of agri-technology out there and what we've seen recently, as I mentioned, there was a drought going on in the southwest of Nigeria. So, when we go looking for problems, what are the problems the farmers are having? And we try to create or find innovations or solutions to it. And one of the challenges was irrigation. During our research, which we are still on right now, we have discovered there are innovators out here that are actually developing solutions for the irrigation system. We cannot farm seasonal. We are a nation of over 200 million people. That's not going to work. So we need to tackle, that's one of the major challenges that we are having. There is a young individual that's been able to develop a micro irrigation system on a timer. One of his major challenges is power, energy, because it's on a timer. It is done remotely, and the system was created. I mean, there are open source softwares that he was able to tap into to create a whole unique system. And he's on, I believe, 5 acres. He's out in Abuja, and his units is operational through his irrigation system is controlled by technology. So there are different ideas out there, but we need to enable these minds to create this system and be able to spread it out. But that's one of the innovations that I've seen in the past 30 days that I just witnessed, and it is amazing. So that's something I'm excited about.
Thank you. Thank you very much for bringing that up. Uche, what are those in innovation you've seen, agri-tech innovations you've seen that started minimal and have now grown so that our audience can probably copy or look for what is left out, not reinventing the wheel, move it further, push the envelope further.
Okay, well, one innovation that stood out to me was the application of black soldier fly larvae as a substitution for fertilizer, especially now that the naira has completely dwindled versus the dollar, and we're still very heavily reliant on importation of fertilizer. So a friend of mine, I don't know if I'm allowed to mention his business to keep him anonymous, started out, a small container-sized system, and now he's literally turning over millions of dollars per annum. Literally has farmers lining up, paying him in advance because black soldier fly apparently is super beneficial to plants. I mean, one bag I hear is equivalent to 10 bags of manure, right? So this is one innovation that is literally God sent at this very point in time, because and his aim, by the way, is to sell his fertilizer at a profit, but 25% less than conventional fertilizer. So automatically factoring in a 25% margin for the farmer. And by the way, this black soldier fly larvae is also good for animal feed. So chicken feed, poultry, that sort of thing, and also fish feed. It also helps, with a closed cycle system. It recycles waste. I mean, it's quite the innovation, especially with regards to helping curb the demand on FX for fertilizer importation. Another innovation well, it's a concept, not so much an innovation, is something called PUE, which I was introduced to recently. It's an acronym for productive use of energy, in the sense that little processing plants, or basically value addition processing plants, are powered by solar or renewable energy systems, such that communities where they can't afford electricity. Because, I mean, it's one thing to be in darkness because the infrastructure is lacking or you're underserved. It's another thing to be in darkness because you can't afford to pay electricity bills, which is quite, an interesting twist to the problem. It's not just that the infrastructure is lacking, and some communities can't afford this. So an ingenious way to bring these communities up to speed is rather than produce electricity directly for consumption, the electricity goes into value addition for cold storage, for example. There's a business called Cold Box. They're doing brilliantly, across uh, developing communities, with regards to giving them a means to add value to their produce, therefore to increase their income, and then eventually able to afford electricity for consumption. So those two innovations really stand out for me. They're doing some serious, they're doing the Lord's work, if you like, out there in these communities.
Yeah, thank you very much. I particularly like that black soldier fly technology. Looks like bio agri technology. Mm. All right, Olapeju, please weigh in on this.
So I have a company called Solar's Farm Lab, and they have used the soilless farming technology to be able to produce food at a large scale. They currently literally hydroponics, right? I know they're doing a very great number. I also know that they've just recently even branched out to even selling, at a physical store in on the island there, so they're applying technology to ensure that your daily staples, your daily food is being produced at a better quality and quantity at that. I also have a company called Ekotutu, just a spin-off of what Uche was talking about. Ekotutu also employs technology to offer cold storage facilities for people in the markets. We even use their service at various points in time. Right. You also have cold hubs, a great number of hubs that they have created. I know there's one on the Ekpe axis. There's also one in Mile 12 Market and other places in the country. So, all of these companies are actually doing really great, churning out great numbers. Did they start small? Yes, some of them did, but they've also been able to get funding as they're growing, to ensure that they keep the lights on and ensure that this solution that they're bringing is sustained for the long haul. Like I said, agric is a very patient capital space. So are they turning profits? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not in their books, but I know that if they keep at it, they would also be making profits at the end of the day. So yeah, those are the companies I have in mind.
Thank you very, very much. So our audience are itching to ask you questions. And so I'll be taking their questions for the next 16 minutes, thereabout. So we have okay, Obiora Chukunonso. Thank you, Mr. Uche. I really like your analysis using creation plan. Okay. Muhammad, that's Muhammad Kalwuri. In agriculture, with which areas are okay, with areas are okay. That's not really, the person is essentially asking which areas can technology be applied to agriculture, and so many of that have been mentioned during the discussion. I'm sure while answering, you may also still mention some more. So this person is asking, I'm working, Debo Olatunde, I'm working in the agri-tech space, working on post-harvest loss solution at scale. I would like to liaise with some of the panelists on how to brainstorm and leverage our collective expertise. Yeah, to answer that one quickly, the names of the panelists are on the screen, so you can just check them out on LinkedIn and also engage with the PSAG handles on social media. It will be supplied as we go by. G2 is saying we are challenged by post-harvest loss. It is a problem all over Nigeria. How can technology solve post-harvest loss? Is there a technological solution for this problem? Would once I take all the questions, please, you would answer that. Please send the link to access AirSmart for the carbon credits. How can we get a comprehensive list of crop production farms in Nigeria? This person is speaking to database, actually, another way to apply technology in agriculture. Please, can we emphasize on how to cash out from renewable energy technology from agricultural waste recycling like biocar and biogas? Perhaps any of the resource person can give a hint. Please, okay. Okay, there is still another question about post-harvest solution for yam. Tomato storage in Nigeria is a big issue. Are there institutions looking into how do I get people that are interested to collaborate, interested in fertilizer substituents? I think that's the black soldier fly. You cannot solve the problem you are not aware of. Beautiful quote, Peju. That's from Jide the Great. And okay, an understanding of a problem and the gathering rights requirements that meet need is the foundation of any successful initiative. Okay, please, let's answer some of the questions that have been raised. Post-harvest losses first, and then biocar, biogas. Please, any takers?
Let me talk about biochar. It's pronounced as biochar.
Biochar.
Yeah. So, valid question. I think am I audible though? Can everybody hear me? I think. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Yes, Soji,
Oh,
you
okay.
are.
Okay, fantastic. So, biochar. Biochar is a carbon-rich substance, and is taken from a scientific process of pyrolysis, where you convert end-of-life waste through pyrolysis, and the outcome is biochar. So pyrolysis practically means burning those end-of-life waste at a very high temperature, typically 500 degrees, 450 degrees, but low oxygen. So that's pyrolysis in simple terms. And what's the value? The value is simple. It helps in carbon sequestration, like it takes CO2 from the atmosphere, and then beyond that, it helps farmers in water retention. It helps farmers in aeration of the soil. It improves soil health. When mixed with compost, it serves as fertilizer. And that for us at ESMA, for example, is our approach helping farmers. It's our approach also that we're using to issue carbon credit to farmers. So valid information is the future. That's sustainability in agriculture, and making the farms to play a very active role in combating climate change. From that same process of pyrolysis, if required, someone can get biofuel as well. You can get, fuel that you can use to do other things, for example. So if someone wants to know more about that, just come work for Xmart. You'll know about it. Thank you.
Okay, if I can speak on the post-harvest loss, that's quite a challenge, remains a challenge across the board in Africa, on this part of the world. That's where the challenge is. In the West, it's actually the food waste is actually, higher up the chain with regards to after like McDonald's, they throw out a lot of food at the end of the day, and that sort of thing. But here, the waste is literally right after the food has been produced. And that's largely to do with a couple of things. One of them is infrastructure, and the other one is training, right? So farmers in today's world are still smallholder, largely to a large extent are still smallholder farmers. And their bank account is under their mattress, right? So if you're going to convince them to, oh, after you farmed, bring it to my warehouse, it's going to be secure, and I'll tell you when the prices go up so you can sell at a profit. Nobody's going to listen to that. Not many of them are going to listen to that. So, you find them twiddling their thumbs, sitting on their thumbs after they've harvested without a market, right? Because they don't have the storage for it. And the other issue is the storage aspect of things, right? There's, inadequate information as to how to get to these storage facilities, or even they're non-existent in some of these places where the farmers are farming. So these are the fundamental issues. And it is my belief that technology, if tailored to the culture of the people, can alleviate some of these problems, even with, these infrastructural gaps. So for instance, if these farmers can come together and not farm in isolation, right? And again, give us adequate data as to when they're putting their seeds in the ground, when they're expected to harvest. They can be linked through software to off-takers. This way, minimizing the risk of having to sit on your thumbs without a market after you've harvested. So a solution like that, literally access to market, may help these farmers, curb post-harvest losses. Hopefully that answers your question and gives you something to think about, because we really, really, I think up to 30% of our produce that is already insufficient goes to waste, which which is terrible if you ask me, especially given that food prices are on the up and up. Thank you. So that's my contribution to that question. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. So, does anyone still, okay, Abdul, you want to answer the questions?
Yes, I just want to,
I'd
like to interject on the database information. Something I recently discovered is we have abundance of data sets available in the country, but we're not aware of it. So I encourage people to engage their local universities. Postgraduate degrees actually requires a thesis before graduation. So they have put together abundance of information and data sets that you can obtain, and they just sitting in a room at the university. So I want to encourage anyone that's interested in obtaining more data sets to reach out to the Ministry of Agriculture, reach out to the local universities that's around your vicinity or around your farm, and just liaise and connect with like-minded people on biogas. There's a gentleman in the audience, Mr. Sheon Solomon. I know he has conducted a project on biogas, which is just trying, composting the losses into biogas to be able to drive their generators that they use for the water pumps and things of such. For the post-harvest losses as well, you have to look at your storage solutions. How can you optimize your storage facilities? Because that's key. Then logistics. I believe that's Mrs. Olapeju's department. How quick are you moving your products to the market? One thing I heard on one of the sessions is you are to have a buyer before planting. You don't want to have your product and then you have no off-takers. So as a role, you have to review your business as a whole and be able to create new strategy. I mentioned earlier on the call that it's a changing world order. The way we approach business before is not going to work anymore. It's new days of artificial intelligence. It's a new way of just doing everything. So you have to become innovative and create new systems to be able to get you across the board. Thank you.
Thank you very, very, very much, Mr. Uche, Mr. Olapeju, Soji, and Abdul. In 30 seconds or less, because we have just 4 minutes to go, I want you to say something to our audience, our teaming audience, who are itching to become agropreneurs and who are itching to enter through the tech doors in 30 minutes or less. Let's go with Mr. Soji first, then.
Yeah, thank you. Once again, thank you for this opportunity to be here. I think what I would say in summary here is don't be afraid to start, because there's that complex. They say, oh, there's a lion in the street, and because of that lion, I can't go out. Don't be afraid to start, just start. We're living at such a good time in human history, especially as Nigerians, that we're in the midst of a lot of problems. And that gives us amazing opportunity to build solution, and not to be afraid to start. Now, there will be challenges, make no mistake, there'll be lots of problems, but this is a race that will be won by those who are resilient, driven with vision, are able to delay their gratification, their reward system, they are able to wait, and just go and build. Let's solve these problems, and let's make a ton of money together. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Uche?
Yeah, just piggybacking off of what Sergi has said, don't be afraid to get out there. Initially, ambiguity is a certainty, but before you know it, things will start to clear out and a path will emerge. So embrace ambiguity in the beginning. Decide if you want to be an armchair participant or you want to literally have boots on ground. If you're going to be an armchair participant, find the right team and invest in that team. Make your money work for you. Otherwise, get your fingers dirty and let's do this work together. We all need everybody to chip in. It's not something that you can relegate to. And I have a white collar, but I go to the farm as well. I'm putting on a white collar today, but tomorrow you see me in my Wellington boots and my straw hat. There's no stigma attached to sorry, is that me going off? Okay. There's no stigma attached to farming these days. It's actually a noble occupation. So please get involved, and by the way, there's FX to be made if you're exporting. So what are you waiting for, Jump in.
Thank you very much. Olakweju?
Right. So from seed production to planting to harvesting to aggregation, logistics, and even to the last mile delivery to the consumer, there's a place you can just plug into. So my advice to people out there is find where you belong, like everybody has said, and just plug in. Um, we've had the days where it seems like you want to pull your hair off, and you're not just having it because a Greek can test your patience. That's the truth. You sometimes you think you say you're solving post harvest loss, but right in your hand, even you are having losses because probably something went bad and all. But just know that a Greek also rewards after a while. So please, let's keep at it. Nigeria needs every one of us. We can't all japa. And like Abdul japa that, Abi. So we can't all japa, right? So we need to, we all need our input here and to make Nigeria's agri space work. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Olakweju. And Abdul.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for even joining in. That's what I love to see, people looking for information. As everybody said, look, learning is key. The day you stop learning, you start declining. If you have passion for this, I encourage everybody to proceed. Go ahead and, just pick your stronghold, understand your strength, surround yourself with positive people, surround yourself with experts in the field, and then just attack it. I've been to Nasarawa. We did a pilot project whereas we brought rice. I like to prove to people that this is achievable. I don't have a background of agriculture, but I was able to go to the farm. We went to several rice farms. We partnered with farmers. We were able to bring rice in April when they were selling at 75,000 Naira. We were able to bring to Lagos at 45,000 and sell at 60,000. So we were 15,000 cheaper than the market. And it was the standard rice. So one of our goals is, I don't want to hear foreign rice anymore. I want some people in the audience to start producing local rice and remove the local from it. You have to call it Nigerian rice. So it's a collective effort for everybody. And I want to encourage everybody, look, there's no failures in life. It's just an opportunity for you to learn and start afresh. Now it's not going to work this way. Let's try a different way. So thank you, everybody, for even joining in. It's a start, and let's keep achieving it. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Somebody is looking for Abdul's rice. Okay, so Olakweju, well, we'll know how to get it around because, of course, rice is good. So this conversation continues on the social media, and the PSAG's social media handle, X, they are at PSAG Nigeria. On Instagram, PSAG_Nigeria. The conversation continues there. If you are looking for any of the panelists, just type their names on LinkedIn or your favorite social media. You will find them there. So thank you very much. This has been we've been talking about the business of agricultural technology, embracing the digital revolution, technology as a catalyst for agricultural growth. We will be taking a break now, and the next session will start by 1 p.m. to start by 1 p.m. So thank you, Soji Soyaolu. Thank you, Olakweju Umar. Thank you, Abdul Abiola, Uche Ubo. And thank you very much, the Private Sector Advisory Group, Nigeria, Cluster 5, and the BAT Nigeria Foundation, and BD Business Day Foundation. Thank you. See you at the next session by 1 p.m.
Thank you
Bye.
so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Bye.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.